Picture a room you've never left. A room with no doors, no windows, just walls papered with faces staring back at you. They're not strangers. They're everyone you've ever known. Their eyes locked on yours, silently demanding you stay small, stay safe, stay theirs. You've been here so long you've forgotten it's a prison. Forgotten the air could taste different. But then, a crack splits the silence. A question so sharp it cuts through the haze. What if you stopped giving a damn? What if you turned your back on those faces, smashed the walls, and walked into the unknown? It's a jolt, isn't it? We're raised to believe caring what others think is the thread that stitches us into the world. A sacred duty, a shield against exile. But what if that thread's a noose? What if the tighter you cling, the more it chokes out the you that's been clawing to breathe? You know the moments when you swallowed your fire, painted on a smile, or let a dream rot because someone might raise an eyebrow. Each time, something died, didn't it? Yet, you kept at it. Because stepping out of line feels like jumping into a void. What happens when you stop caring? Do you soar or do you splinter? Here's the twist that digs under your skin. They tell you it's for the greater good, but the more you care, the less you're yours. You're a marionette, strings yanked by hands you can't even see, dancing for a crowd that's already moved on. Why do we sign up for this? Why do we trade our jagged, brilliant selves for a smooth lie that fits their playbook? Is it fear of being cast out? Of standing alone? Of being too loud in a world that loves whispers? Or is it something older? Something etched into our blood? Something we've never had the guts to name? Feel that itch, that restless hum in your chest. It's not random. It's a flare, a signal from a you that's been gagged too long. What if you answered it? Not next week, not when it's safe. But right here, what if you ripped up their rules and wrote your own? It feels like heresy, doesn't it? Delicious, dangerous heresy. And yet, it sticks, heavy as a stone, daring you to wonder, who am I when the faces fade? Who am I when the stares dissolve? When the only gaze left is mine? Hold that thought. Let it simmer. Let it scald. Because beneath it lies a truth so stark, so unyielding, it could unravel the whole game you've been playing. The real question isn't what happens when you stop caring. It's why you've been too scared to try. And that, right there, is the spark that lights the fuse. Where it leads, you're about to find out. You've felt it all along, haven't you? That quiet ache, that gnawing sense that something's off, like you're living in a house built by someone else, with walls that don't quite fit. It's not just the voices of others telling you how to be. It's the way those voices have wormed their way inside, becoming your own. You don't even notice it most days. The way you second-guess your instincts. The way you measure your worth against a scale you didn't design. This isn't an accident. This is a hidden machinery. A psychological and philosophical trap woven into the fabric of being human. And it's been running your life longer than you'd care to admit. Carl Jung saw it clearly. The shadow, that dark twin of yourself you shove into the basement of your mind. It's not just your flaws or your rage. It's the parts of you that don't fit the script, the wild edges you've sanded down to keep the world from flinching. Society doesn't just demand conformity. It convinces you those edges are dangerous, shameful, wrong. So you care, desperately, obsessively, because to stop caring feels like letting the shadow loose, like facing a version of yourself you've been taught to fear. But here's the kicker. That shadow isn't your enemy. It's you, screaming to be let out. Then there's Nietzsche, that mad prophet of the self, who roared against the herd. He saw how we cling to the approval of others, not out of love, but out of cowardice, a refusal to stand alone in the abyss of our own existence. The individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe, he wrote, and you feel that struggle in your bones, don't you? Every time you mute your truth to keep the peace, you're not just surviving, you're surrendering. You're choosing the tribe's comfort over your own soul, and the cost is a slow erosion of everything that makes you. Schopenhauer takes it deeper, peeling back the skin of human desire. He argued that we're driven by a blind, insatiable will, a hunger for meaning, for belonging, for validation, and caring what others think is just one of its cruel disguises. You think you're seeking connection, but you're really chasing a mirage, a fleeting nod that vanishes the moment you grasp it. And yet, you keep running, because the alternative Facing the emptiness, the silence of your own, will feels like a void too vast to bear. This isn't just philosophy, it's psychology stitched into your neurons. The human brain is wired for social survival, mirror neurons firing to mimic, amygdala lighting up at the threat of rejection. You're built to care, to scan faces for approval, to flinch at disapproval like it's a predator in the grass. But what happens when that meant to keep you alive becomes a prison? You start living for the scan, not the self. You become a reflection of their expectations, a ghost in your own story. And society? It's the architect of this trap, a machine that thrives on your compliance. From the moment you're born, it hands you a script. Be good, be liked, be useful, and every applause reinforces the bars. But the bars aren't iron. They're whispers, glances, silences that cut deeper than steel. The hidden problem isn't that you care, it's that you've forgotten why. It's that you've let this force shape your identity, your dreams, your very sense of what's real. And the consequences? They're already unfolding, silent and relentless, waiting for you to see. You don't notice it at first, do you? The way the ground beneath you shifts, soft and treacherous, as you keep caring what they think. It's not a loud collapse, no trumpets, no sirens, just a slow, creeping rot that seeps into every corner of your life. You wake up one day and realize you've been walking a tightrope you didn't even choose, balancing for an audience that's already turned away. The unseen consequences of this endless caring aren't just personal, they're a quiet catastrophe, reshaping your reality, your relationships, your very mind, while you're too busy looking outward to see the damage within. Think about it. Every time you twist yourself to fit their gaze, you lose something. A dream deferred, a truth unspoken, a spark dim. Psychologists call it the spotlight effect. You overestimate how much others notice you, how much they judge. But the irony cuts deeper. Even if they don't notice, you still pay the price. Your brain, that ancient survival machine, floods with cortisol at the hint of disapproval, wiring you for anxiety, for doubt. You're not just tired, you're neurologically tethered to a cycle of seeking and never finding, a hamster wheel of validation that spins faster the harder you run. And it's not just you. Look around. Entire societies bend under this weight. Cultures calcify into echo chambers, where dissent is drowned not by force, but by the sheer exhaustion of swimming against the tide. Cognitive biases, like the bandwagon effect, lock you into the herd's rhythm, convincing you that what's popular must be true, that what's approved must be right. You stop asking questions, stop seeing clearly, because clarity might mean standing alone. History whispers the cost. Galileo silenced, Socrates poisoned, countless unnamed souls crushed not by chains, but by the invisible pressure of collective opinion. But the real wound is personal, isn't it? You felt it in those quiet moments, when you scroll through a feed of curated lives and feel smaller, when you bite your tongue in a room full of nodding heads, when you choose safety over authenticity. Each choice carves a groove, a neural pathway that says, "This is who I am, the one who fits, the one who pleases." Over time, those grooves become canyons, and the person you might have been, the bold, unfiltered, you slips further out of reach. Jean-Paul Sartre called it bad faith, living a lie to avoid the terror of freedom. You're not just conforming, you're erasing yourself, one compromise at a time. The stakes climb higher still. Relationships turn transactional. Love becomes a barter for approval. Friendship, a mirror for your mask. You attract people who like the shell, not the soul, and wonder why you feel so alone in a crowd. Your creativity withers too. Because what's the point of art, of ideas, if they're sanded down to fit the frame of someone else's taste? Even your body feels it. Tension in your shoulders, a clenched jaw, a heart that races for no reason you can name. You're not living, you're performing, and the stage is crumbling beneath you. The urgency isn't abstract, it's here, now, in the way you hesitate, in the dreams you've shelved, in the life you've half-lived. You've been so busy dodging the unseen arrows of judgment that you haven't seen the target they've pinned to your back. But what if you could turn around? What if you could step off the tightrope, not into chaos, but into something real? The possibility is there, shimmering just beyond the haze, waiting for you to reach for it. You're standing at the edge now, aren't you? The air feels sharp, electric, like the moment before a storm breaks. You've seen the trap, those invisible strings pulling at your limbs, the voices that aren't yours, whispering in your skull. You've felt the cost in your bones, the way it's hollowed you out. But here's the radical shift, the rebellion that flips the script. What if caring what others think isn't a virtue to overcome, but a cage to shatter? What if the freedom you feared isn't a fall, but a flight? This isn't about tweaking your habits or softening the edges. This is about torching the whole damn stage and walking away. Start here. Stop asking for permission. Nietzsche didn't wait for the herd to nod. He stared into the abyss and laughed. Viktor Frankl didn't beg for meaning in the death camps. He forged it from the ashes. These weren't saints. They were rebels who saw the lie of external validation and chose themselves instead. You can too. It's not arrogance. It's clarity. The world doesn't own you, no matter how loud it screams otherwise. So when that voice in your head asks, "What will they think?" answer it with a question of your own. Why should I care? Let it hang there, unanswered, until it withers. Next, rewire the machine. Your brain's been trained to flinch at rejection, but it's not set in stone. Psychologists call it neuroplasticity. You can carve new paths. When you feel that pang of needing approval, pause, breathe, name it for what it is. A relic of survival, not a law of nature. Then act against it. Say the unfiltered thing. Chase the wild idea. Wear the shirt they'd hate. Each time, you're not just defying them. You're reclaiming you. It's counterintuitive as hell. Freedom often is. But every step chips away at the cage. Look to the outliers. History is littered with them. Frida Kahlo painting her pain while the world winced. Diogenes living in a barrel to mock the status quo. Even Jesus flipping tables in the temple. They didn't bend to the crowd. They broke it. You don't need to be a legend. You just need to borrow their fire. Ask yourself, what would I do if no one was watching? Then do it, not tomorrow. Now, the first act of rebellion is the hardest, but it's the spark that sets the rest ablaze. Build a new lens. Stop seeing yourself through their eyes, those distorted mirrors of expectation, and start seeing them through yours. They're not judges. They're just people, scared and scrambling like you've been. Sartre said hell is other people, but only if you let them define you. Flip it. Let their opinions be noise, not gospel. When you catch yourself shrinking, picture this. You're a star in a void, burning for no one's sake but your own. That's not isolation. That's power. The shift feels chaotic, doesn't it? Good. Chaos is where the real stuff happens. You'll stumble, old habits die hard, but each fall is a lesson, each rise a victory. You're not just breaking free. You're building something new, a mind that answers to you, a life that fits your shape. The rebellion isn't loud. It's quiet, relentless, a refusal to play the game anymore. And the payoff? You start to feel solid, grounded, like you're finally standing on your own earth. But this isn't the end. The real power, the deepest cut, lies just ahead, a truth so stark, it'll make all this struggle snap into focus. You're close now. Can you feel it? You've clawed your way here, haven't you? Past the shadows, the strings, the suffocating weight of their eyes. You've tasted rebellion, felt the ground shift beneath your feet as you dared to stop caring. But now, in this raw, uncharted quiet, a final truth rises like a dawn you didn't expect. One so piercing it redefines everything you fought for. It's not just that you can stop caring what others think. It's that you never had to start. The ultimate revelation isn't about breaking free. It's about realizing the cage was never locked. Look back. Every moment you shrank, every time you bent to fit their frame, it wasn't them holding the key. It was you. The power you gave away wasn't taken. It was offered, handed over in 1,000 tiny surrenders you didn't even clock. Jung's shadow wasn't a monster. It was a mirror, showing you the strength you buried. Nietzsche's abyss wasn't a threat. It was an invitation. The voices you feared, the judgments you dodged, they only had teeth because you fed them your belief. Strip that away. And what's left? A phantom. A hollow echo dissolving in the wind. This is the paradigm shift. Reality isn't what they say it is. It's what you see when you stop borrowing their eyes. Sartre's freedom wasn't a burden. It was a gift, terrifying only because it's absolute. You've been living in a story where others were the authors, but the pen's been in your hand all along. That anxiety, that ache, it wasn't failure. It was friction. The soul grinding against a lie it couldn't stomach. The day you stop caring isn't a rebellion against them. It's a homecoming to you. Feel that weight lift. The world doesn't collapse when you let go. It sharpens. Colors bleed brighter. Choices feel lighter. Because you're no longer hauling their expectations like a chain around your neck. You're not just free from judgment. You're free to see. To see the friend who loves your edges, the dream that fits your hands, the life that hums with your pulse. It's not chaos. It's clarity. A lens so clear, it hurts at first. Like staring into the sun after years in a cave. And here's the haunting part. You've always known this. Deep down beneath the noise, a voice whispered it. A child's voice. Maybe from before the world taught you to bow. You felt it in those fleeting moments of defiance. Those nights you dreamed without a filter. The struggle wasn't to learn this truth. It was to remember it. Every step of this journey, every crack in the mask, was you clawing back to that original, untamed self. The one that didn't need permission to exist. So stand here now, in this vast, unshackled silence. Look at the wreckage of who you thought you had to be. Let it burn. Let it fade. You're not a fragment of their story anymore. You're the whole damn book. Write it. Live it. Not with noise or bravado, but with the quiet ferocity of someone who knows the game's been rigged and chooses to walk off the board. What do you see when no one's watching? What do you want when no one's pulling? That's your compass, your North Star, your unshakable ground. The air is still now, isn't it? But it's alive. Thrumming with a question that's no longer a taunt, but a call. Who are you, really? Step toward it. Not tomorrow, not later. Now? The answer's waiting, and it's yours alone to claim. This isn't the end, it's the beginning. A horizon so wide, it dares you to run. Go.